Hi everyone, Mark here from Ariga CRM. Welcome to this first video in our series on how to set up Pipedrive. This one is going to focus on the very first things you need to do, which is the basic settings and security of the system. So without too much further ado, let's dive straight into the product. So I'm going to assume that you've already signed up and you're logged in as an admin user. So what I need you to do is to click on your name at the top right, and then you'll click on settings, and that'll bring up the settings screen. Now we'll come back to that a fair amount, so do try and remember that particular area. Now there's all sorts of settings in here, but we're going to focus on just some of the really important ones. And the first screen that's brought up is actually your own personal profile. Now the key settings here are the locale ones, which I'm showing you now. You'll see that mine are all set to UK apart from the language. So I am going to go ahead and change that now. And then of course not forgetting to click save once I've made that change. Now the second really important settings that we're going to take a quick look at are the company ones. And if I click on those on the left hand side, you can see them here. And the one I really want to draw your attention to is the company domain. And this is where you set the URL that your users will actually access the system by. So it's quite important, if you can, to pick something that's memorable, assuming of course it hasn't already been taken by another customer. So to change that, we just need to change in the box where it says there. Okay, so we're now going to get into the user settings. First of all, I'm going to go to the user settings section by clicking on the relevant link on the left. And that's going to bring up my Manage Users screen, which has 4 tabs: Users, Permission Sets, Visibility Groups, and Teams. Now the user list is fairly obvious, so we're going to start off with Permission Sets. So I'm going to start by clicking into the Permission Sets tab. Okay, now that that's loaded up. Now permission sets are actually where you can set up what your users can do. So you can set up groups of them. And they're simply name set on the left and then a set of permissions on the right. So if I want to add my own personalized set, all I have to do is click on Add Set. Give it a name. So in this case, let's say I'm doing it for my salespeople. And then I set the various checkboxes on the right. Now, those are well documented, so I'm not going to go over all of them now, and they are fairly self-explanatory anyway. But as soon as I've set those as I want them, my permission set is ready to use. Okay, the next thing we're going to take a look at is visibility groups. So we're going to go into that section now by clicking on the tab at the top. Okay, now visibility groups basically dictate what your users can see. So can they only see their own records or other people's records? And very much like permission sets, it's very easy to create your own group by clicking on the add group or subgroup, giving that group a name. So in this case, we'll call it sales again. Okay, and then I can set the visibility options on the right hand side, as you can see here. Now what's quite useful here is when I select one of the options under one of the main product types, it gives me an explanation of what it is I'm actually setting, so no need to look up stuff separately. Now the final tab, which I've just clicked onto, is Teams, and Teams are basically a way of organising users. They're useful for reporting but don't really have any effect on security, so I'm not particularly going to cover those now. So now we have permission set and visibility group, let's go and add a user. So I'm going to click onto the Users tab, and I should note at this point that some of this functionality does differ compared on the different plans. Now bear in mind I'm on Platinum, which is obviously the top one. So when I'm in here, all I need to do to add a user is click the Add User button. I add in my user's email. Note that it tells me how much extra the monthly fee will be by adding this user. Give it a first name and a last name, and note I can set the visibility group directly here, so I can immediately assign this new user to the sales visibility group. When I hit confirm and invite, my new user is going to get an email which is going to give them all the instructions they need to access the system. Okay, just give that a second to finish saving. And that's really it. So my user now can access the system. I do want to just quickly assign them to the correct permission set. So if I go to my custom permission set I added, I can then search for my user in the box, in this case Ariga Marketing, and assign them, and they are now set up under that permission set. So as I say, that's about it for the permissions and setting up a new user. My user now has everything they need to actually get onto the system and start using it as I want them to. But what about if they leave the company? So actually deactivating users is really easy. Just go to the user, click the deactivate button, as I'm showing you here. Note the remove unused seats and update billing. That makes sure you don't retain a license that you no longer need. And if I click that and then click deactivate, then my user will no longer have access to the system. Obviously important to keep on top of that for security reasons. So that's about it for users and basic settings. If you do need any more help, then please do drop us a line at the email address on the screen. See you soon.